in the storm-lashed seas of the North Atlantic, where waves crash against black cliffs and winds howl like ancient spirits, two worlds once collided with fire and steel. The Irish, proud heirs of a land steeped in myth and monastery, stood face to face with the Vikings, sea-born raiders who swept across the coasts of Europe like a relentless tide. This was no simple encounter. It was a clash that reshaped kingdoms, faith, and memory. For Ireland, the struggle against the Vikings became one of the defining chapters of its medieval age, a story of devastation and resilience, of monasteries burned yet traditions enduring, of kings who rose and fell, and of a people who refused to be broken. In the 8th and 9th centuries, Ireland was a patchwork of rival kingdoms, each ruled by chieftains and high kings who sought dominance over the Emerald Isle. Though divided politically, the island was spiritually united by Christianity. Its monasteries, at places like Clonmacnoise, Glendalough, and Armagh, were centers of art, learning, and devotion. Monks illuminated manuscripts like the Book of Kells with radiant detail, preserving knowledge even as Europe elsewhere descended into chaos. Yet in the year 795, a new terror arrived. From across the sea came long, narrow ships, dragon-headed and swift. The Norsemen, called Lochlanac by the Irish, struck first at Lindisfarne in England, but soon their sails appeared off Ireland's shores. The early Viking raids were brutal and sudden. Monasteries, rich in gold, silver, and sacred relics, became prime targets. The annals of Ulster record with grim precision. Inais Patraic was plundered by the heathens. The shrine of St. Dachana was broken and pillaged. For the Irish, these were more than just attacks on wealth. They were assaults on the spiritual heart of their society. Holy places burned, monks were slain or dragged into slavery, and relics were desecrated. To the Vikings, who prized both silver and human lives, Ireland was a fertile ground for plunder. But plunder turned to conquest. By the mid-9th century, Vikings no longer came only to raid, they came to stay. They established fortified bases, or longforts, at Dublin, Limerick, Waterford, Cork, and Wexford. These became thriving Norse towns, trading hubs that linked Ireland to the wider Viking world, from Greenland and Iceland to the markets of Constantinople. Dublin, founded in 841, soon emerged as a major power, ruled by Viking warlords like Olaf the White and Sihtric Keech. They controlled trade, minted coins, and challenged native Irish kings for supremacy. Tension rose as Irish kings struggled to expel these foreign intruders. The island's politics, already fractured, became a storm of shifting alliances. Sometimes, Irish rulers even allied with Vikings against rival Irish kingdoms, an uneasy balance between survival and betrayal. Yet leaders arose who sought to unify resistance. Mael Sechnaill Mac Mael Ruinade, High King of Ireland, fought to break Norse power in the 9th century. The annals tell of bloody confrontations at Tara, at Carlingford Lough, and across the Shannon. These wars were not just about land, but about Ireland's soul, its survival as a people distinct from the Norse. The climax of these struggles came in the year 1014 at the Battle of Clontarf. On Good Friday, just outside Dublin, Brian Boru, High King of Ireland, faced a coalition of Viking forces and their Irish allies. The armies clashed in a brutal contest remembered in saga and song. The battle raged for hours, with shields shattering and swords flashing in the sun. Brian's forces won a decisive victory, breaking the Viking power in Ireland. Yet the triumph came at a cost. Brian himself was slain, struck down in his tent by fleeing Norsemen. The tale entered Irish legend. The aged king, too weak to fight in the line, still dying a martyr for his land and his God. The aftermath of Clontarf did not see the total expulsion of the Vikings. Their towns remained, their blood mingled with the Irish, and their culture left indelible marks. Dublin, though defeated, would thrive in the centuries to come as a major city. Norse words entered the Irish tongue, Norse customs merged with Gaelic tradition, and Viking descendants became part of Ireland's nobility. But the myth of Clontarf endured, an image of Ireland's triumph over the invader, of a people who defended their land against the storm of the north. The legacy of these clashes is profound. The Vikings, for all their destruction, also transformed Ireland. They created towns where none had existed, expanded trade networks, and left behind artifacts that today fill the glass cases of museums, armorings, swords, brooches, and runic stones. Yet Ireland, unlike other lands fully conquered, preserved its Gaelic identity. Its monasteries recovered, its language endured, and its kings continued to rule. The Viking Age in Ireland was not an ending, but a forging. Out of blood and battle, Ireland emerged more resilient, its culture enriched and its memory strengthened. Even today, echoes of those centuries remain. Dublin, once a Viking longfort, stands as Ireland's capital. Streets bear Norse names, and archaeological digs uncover the timbers of old ships and the bones of forgotten warriors. The Irish sagas and annals keep alive the memory of Brian Boru and the defenders of Clontarf. And every April, the battle is commemorated, not only as a fight long past, but as a symbol of Irish endurance. This was more than just a conflict of swords. It was a meeting of civilizations, Christian monks and pagan seafarers, Gaelic kings and Norse jarls. It was a struggle written in smoke and blood, but also in trade and exchange. The Irish versus Viking clashes remind us that history is never simple. Out of war comes destruction, but also transformation. Out of pain, a new identity is forged. And so, as we look back across more than 1,000 years, we see not just the violence of raids, nor just the glory of victories, but the shaping of a nation. Ireland endured the Viking storm and carried forward its spirit, proving that even in the darkest of ages, a people's will to survive can turn invaders into neighbors and war into legacy. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. Every script you hear requires days of research, writing, and editing to bring the voices of history back to life. If you value this kind of storytelling, history told with depth, accuracy, and respect, please consider supporting our work, subscribing, and sharing. Together, we keep the memory of humanity alive.